With the gaff rig, we've got two separate halyards to hoist the mainsail up with, a throat halyard and a peak halyard. So there are actually three places to attach halyards on the gaff. 1, 2, 3. There are also 3 wooden blocks up the top of the mast, and the corresponding halyards come from each block. So the halyard which comes from the top block goes furthest aft on the gaff, the one from the middle goes to the middle, and the lower one goes nearest to the mast. So if we just pop those on, this one comes from the middle block, so we pop it on the middle portion on the gaff. This one comes from the very top. Just make sure we haven't got any twists in that, because if we're twisting when it's down, when you hoist the sail up, they'll tighten up and it's difficult to get the sail down again. Now those two are all one halyard, that's the peak halyards. Then come to near the mast, and this one comes from the lower block, and that goes on closest to the mast there. And that line nice and fair there, so that just goes on to there. Now that we've the mainsail halyards attached, the next thing to do is to attach the jib to the boat. Now this is a self-tacking jib on here, which is basically the same sort of jib as a loose-footed, but it's attached to a boom. Now on the boom there are 2 strops. The first one, the front end, is attached to the stem head. The rearmost one takes the jib sheet. The jib sheet is just a single line which is attached to the deck just down there. If we just take the end of that and pop that through the strop, and it passes across the foredeck, and through a fair lead on the other side, and then runs back along the deck to the cockpit. Now if at all possible, it's an advantage to put the jib up first before we put the mainsail up, because if we put the mainsail up first, all the weight of the sails and the boom and the gaff will try to drag the mast backwards, and we want to actually pull the mast forward. It's a result of the fact that we have to have an easily lowered mast system, and it's difficult to tension the standing rigging. So if we put the jib up first and leave everything slack at the back end, including the topping lift, we can then pull the mast forward and actually with the jib halyard get that nice and tight, and you'll set the whole rig up much better by doing that. Just work our way up the front of the sail, so we'll make sure we haven't got any twists in the sail. Take our halyard off the cleat, and to identify which is the jib, it's obviously the one off the front of the mast. Through there and hoist away. We want to sweat that up nice and tight. If we come underneath the cleat and pull on that one and drag in on there, so we get that really nice and tight, and then make that fast around the cleat. And coil the rope up nicely as we go. Right, before we hoist the mainsail, Vicky, you need to just remove these crutches. So if you like to just pull up on the topping lift, and that will support the boom whilst we're raising the sail. That's low, so just make that fast onto the cleat. But when we hoist the sail up, Vicky, we like to try and keep this gaff going up horizontal, okay? With this gaff sail, this point of the sail's got to come up tight first. Once we get to that point, I'll cleat mine off, and then you continue with your peak to set the actual shape of the sail. And what we're looking for is some heavy creases to come into the sail from the peak, which will be up over there, down to the gooseneck here. And just ease back until you've got a little bit of a crease there. And when we let the topping lift go, those creases will more or less disappear. And then if there's any remaining creases there, the actual wind that gets in the sail will actually straighten those out. And we'll demonstrate that when we just put the sail up, okay?
Okay.
Now the sail is up. It appears to be a bit too high, with the crease coming down from the top of the gaff to the gooseneck. The crease runs diagonally across the sail. This is good, because when the topping lift is slackened off and the wind gets into the sail, the crease will smooth out. It is better to have the sail too high than too low. If you take the distance between the reef points, that is the amount you reduce the sail. To take in another reef, bring down the front of the sail and attach the next cringle to the gooseneck. The back of the sail is attached to the boom in the same way, using the next cringle, but the sail must be stretched out and pulled tight. The sail is then tied down along its length using the short coloured cords provided to prevent the unused portion being loosened by the wind. If you need to put in 2 or more reefs, it is better to put one in first and a second on top. This allows you to shake out the second whilst leaving the first one in.